I'm Charlene Alexander, and today we're going to talk to you about the best practices in closing performance gaps with English language learners. According to Texas A&M Center for Research and Development in Dual Language and Literacy Acquisitions, in Texas alone, we had over 809,000 students that were serviced as ELL, English language learners. And then if you take a look, it says 11.2 million of the school-age children and their families, are non-English speaking, and 73% were speaking Spanish speakers. This is causing a high dropout rate as well for Hispanics and Latinos because it's difficult for them to learn that second language to be successful. English learners' population is highly diverse, and the diversity varies by region and which area. Most ELL are not immigrants, but most are newcomers to the nation, and most are a majority are U.S.-born immigrants, so their parents are not U.S. citizens, but the children normally are U.S. citizens. Many English language learners struggle academically, and the levels of English proficiency needed for participation to be successful needs to increase. And so we're going to go ahead and listen to Mr. Chris Juarez on his perspective.
Closing the gap for our English language learners, I think definitely there needs to be a variety of things done. Most importantly, I would definitely approach our certified educators in the classrooms. I think we need to do more in terms of attracting certified bilingual teachers, teachers who are dominant in both the native language of the student and, of course, the English academic language. Working with universities and educational programs is definitely something we can do to attract highly qualified bilingual certified teachers. Another thing we can do is really work with parents in terms of bringing them into the schools, teaching them what they can do at home with their children to help support the school in terms of learning a new language and helping support the instruction done in their native language. Parental support, especially parents who don't speak English as their first language, definitely has to be a priority today in terms of working with English language learners. Those are two focal points that I do believe would bridge the gap.
Hello, I'm here to speak to you about what our English language learners need. One of the things that they need is to learn English enough to participate fully in an academic setting. This is best done through intentional, dedicated curriculum in English language development. For example, one of the things that we need to do as teachers is model what is expected or what they are expected to do. Another thing we need to do is watch the rate of speech. For example, we need to make sure that we simplify but speak naturally and clearly. Things that we need to use in the classroom would be things like making sure that our classroom is language rich. One of the other things that I wanted to speak about is the fact that our ELLs need support. They need support that their native English-speaking peers are learning. Teachers need to use instructional strategies that make the academic curriculum comprehensible. For example, making sure that they use concrete items. Things like using visuals, sketches, photographs, making sure that they have good visual presentations. And also do what all teachers do best. They need to make sure that they check for understanding consistently, not after class, but while instruction is happening. Another thing that our students need to do is making sure, or what they need, is in order to achieve the dual language of learning English while mastering the same academic content as all other students, ELL students need additional time and support. For example, they need a wait time. They need a sufficient response for time. For example, they have to think first in their native language what they're going to say, and then say it in English. And another thing is making sure that they are supported in the classroom, making sure that maybe they're given partners in class, like reading buddies or language buddies, making sure in the classroom they are working in pairs with students, and also working in small groups in order to practice the language. And finally, English learners need support in bridging the cultural and language worlds. For example, things like we want to make sure that we integrate ELL students' cultural experiences into the learning environment. We don't want them to feel like outsiders. So we want to make sure that they are an important source of their culture in the classroom. And so we want to make sure that we celebrate diversity so that they don't feel like outsiders. Right now I'm going to present a video of students sharing about their experiences in the classroom, and they are going to tell us what has worked for them and what they would like to see.
The age I learned English was like 10 years old, and it was really hard for me.
I've learned English since very small, like 4 or 5 years old.
I've learned English since I was 8.
I started learning English when I was 13.
Well, I needed to learn English because my mom told me to learn it because I was going to go to school, in English school. So I was kind of forced to learn it.
I wanted to learn English because I would want to understand what people are telling me and what to do, and I just wanted to tell cool stories of myself. That's why I wanted to learn English.
Well, I was basically raised by my grandmother and mom both. So my grandma is American, so she talked to me every time in English in school.
When I first came here, I was doing gymnastics in Lithuania, so I have to do it here too. So coaches and teammates would just talk to me, and that's how I learned English.
I think my teachers, because they didn't really help me when I was little. They just left me there, because they didn't know what to do with me. So I just actually had to learn by myself.
What helped me was the ESL program, but I feel like it would help for us more if we had different groups, I guess, because Spanish people are all together, so all they do is speak Spanish, and so I don't really understand it, and sometimes they talk loud so I can't hear the teacher, and so I just wish people that are from different countries that wouldn't speak Spanish would be in one group and then maybe another group. That's what I think.
Rewards would be that I would get good grades, I will understand better, and I would do things better. And frustration is that many people oh, she's never gonna learn English. She's she has a really heavy accent. She doesn't know how to say this and that. And then some friends don't believe, or teachers or something like that. So it's kind of frustrating.
The good thing about learning English is that you get to conversate and talk to other people more frequently. But the downfall is that the more you learn English, you might forget your own foreign language.
Of course, bilingual, because like if I can't find a job here, I would go back to Lithuania and I could find a job that I can speak English and in Lithuanian. So that would help a lot.
Bilingual, because it's better to know just two, because I work and sometimes they'll call me, oh, we need a Spanish person, so I'm just like raise my hand like, oh, I'm here, and I'll just go and just talk to the person that speaks Spanish, and it's just perfect. So it's perfect to speak two language.
Not a lot of many people live like they don't speak Lithuanian, but it's nice to know other language because they're like, how do you say this? How do you say this? And I feel like really proud of myself for knowing two languages.
I really like the school, and I think it should always keep the ESOL program for those kids who come and doesn't know English at all, so they could learn in step by step and what any this or that means. And yeah, I know it's difficult, but just like keep confidence, keep going, that no matter what you will learn English if you're focused and pay attention.
Yeah. Teachers should also speak slower so that the students could understand. Also, try to keep other people like from speaking their own language so that it doesn't confuse the other students.
I think so too, that teachers would try to speak maybe slower to students that don't speak English at all, so they would get a little bit what they're saying, because I know it's really hard when you don't understand anything and you have homework to do and you have tests the next day, and it's really frustrating, but just one step at a time and it'll get better.
And now I'd like to introduce Jorge Gallegos.
Okay, hello everyone. This segment of the video is going to focus on the 5 principles relating to effective planning and instruction for ELL learners. And if you look at your brochure, I have included the principles. And I'm going to briefly go through these principles one by one and give you an idea how these principles are just guidelines to get you there. The first principle states that the crucial application for reading skills is to learn new concepts and develop new knowledge across content areas, meaning how we're going to overlap those content areas through either thematic units or exposing our students to different print. This print has proven to increase automaticity and decoding. Principle numbers 2 and 3 kind of overlap each other, and these concepts, or principles rather, are effective planning. And this effective planning has a clear understanding of specific sources of difficulties or weaknesses for individual students or groups. Principle number 4 states that ELLs often lack academic language, and this principle here builds on the vocabulary that's already there. And if we think of theory and research, Paulo Freire reminds us that students are not empty vessels, and they're not. They come with language, and that language is the language that we can build on. And this is where we use our peers to assist those ELLs with phonics and phonologic awareness. And that has been a critical component in my position as an RTI teacher, using the other students to help these ELLs. And the last principle, number 5, when planning instruction and intervention, there is a need to consider the function of instruction. Why are you providing this? Is this for prevention, augmentation, or remedial? So this last principle is very crucial because it really builds the foundation of your lesson. And what is this lesson going to achieve? It has what is called the triadic reciprocality, which is a triangulation between the components. Not only are these principles effective for ELLs, they're extremely helpful for all students. Cracking the code, that's what your main objective is helping those ELL students bridge that gap in cracking the code. And we crack that code by active engagement. This next portion of the video is going to give you more examples of strategies that you can use, and these strategies are presented by one of our RTI facilitators, Mrs. Franz Kurtz, and she'll be presenting strategies for all ELLs.
A lot of times we spend time just focusing on either the history of our ELLs or our theory and practice of ELLs, but a lot of times the focus on the strategies for our ELL learners is overlooked. So sometimes teachers need just some basic tools in order to promote background knowledge. One of those tools would be total physical response, which is TPR, or adaptive readers theater, which is simple gestures or just something as simple as pantomime that teachers can bring into their classroom in order to create a fun learning environment for our ELLs. Another strategy could be concept attainment. This is where teachers can use appropriate or inappropriate concept, and students basically formulate a definition or a description based upon what they believe the concept is, and then the teacher would introduce the formal language. Another concept would be Fishbowl. Fishbowl is just a fun way of introducing conversation, cooperative learning, teaching social skills. Another would be just simple field trips, going on a field trip, doing simple experiments in the classroom, and as well as showing movies in order to give the kids a hands-on as well as visual approach to learning. Word sorts is another. There are three kinds of word sorts. There are sound sorts, there are pattern sorts, there are meaning sorts. This is another way of just bringing in cooperative learning to our ELLs, and as well as building background knowledge and closing that performance gaps with our children. Something as simple as the Scholastic website of Story Starters. Story Starters is a very good way, interactive way where kids can learn how to bring words together to form sentences and eventually form paragraphs. Creating a creative classroom or building to build background knowledge, kids putting on their thinking caps, word prompts, questioning, think, pair, and share. These are just some simple basic strategies that teachers can use. Consistent classroom routines. Being consistent in the classroom is the most important thing. Children learn by consistency. This concludes our presentation on closing the performance gap with our ELLs. We want to thank you for your attention as well as your continued support of our ELL learners.